The creativity path. An in-depth exploration of organic decomposition in relation to the creative process. In this video essay, I aim to explore the stages of organic decomposition and its connection to the artist's creative process from idea to manifestation. What is it that distinguishes one artwork from the other? What is it that makes us identify with a specific artist and not the other? What is creativity? How can we create art while struggling constantly with our own self-worth, our own pain, the past, and our own fear from what the future is hiding? How can I create while I myself am in a constant state of decay, as this gap between my soul and manifestation devours my insides, slowly extinguishing the fire of my passion and ultimately my will? My own inevitable decomposition puts me to odds between the infinite and the finite. I find myself constantly asking, can art be created in darkness? Can art be created from decay? I can quote famous artists, philosophers, mystics, etc. during this course of this study, yet by doing so I would be betraying the nature of this work and what it aims to explore. Even my words would be the beginning of the death of any artistic endeavor. For any mental or ideological attachment to that word, that scene, that cut, that frame captured, those and any of my own personal ideas is a sin, a burden that I am laying upon the shoulders of others. The more I delve into the process of decomposition of bodies, food, clothes, insects, metal, etc., the more I find myself in awe, not out of fascination with death, but more so of the moments after the terror of death. The calmness that follows that allows me to quietly observe the decomposition process of all living organisms. A question then forces itself: what is originality? Observing death evokes a certain powerful unconscious urge to express, to create, yet at the same instance another conflicting emotion takes over. An unnerving feeling of my smallness in front of that divine creative power which leaves me in utter humbleness and overwhelming hopelessness. Yet the only way for us to make sense and comprehend our existence, we find ourselves constantly engaged in uncontrollable need to create, whether a painting, a film, a piece of music, an idea, building, or a child. As bodies decompose, they go through 4 phases. Each one has its own characteristics. Autolysis, bloating, acting decay, and then, and finally, the skeletonization stage, when all this tissue and muscles in the cadaver have decayed, leaving only a dry skeleton, and this stage can take a huge amount of time to decay. So do we at the beginning of any creative process go through the same stages. As suddenly an idea emerges from an unknown place, and as we develop it, we are unconsciously going through decomposition, where we inevitably find ourselves gripped by anxiety and horror in each of its stages. As though in each of its stages we find ourselves ultimately in a direct conflict with the one and only true creative force of the universe. We stand in a battle with God Himself. For we are on a lonely journey to the heart of darkness, the unknown, through which we are chasing after the ecstatic euphoria that is like a powerful river floating barren earth as you arrive at the source of originality. In the first stage, you might have the chance to alter some features, some colors, some gestures, body language, and so on. But as you move from phase to the next, the circle of probabilities of creation widens, and in return the horror grows. The elements and details become countless, and at every new phase we stand in terror of the infinite possibilities, asking ourselves, Are we capable of creation? And most importantly, is that world in need of that creation? Or is it just another clone of something that already exists? An endless repetition of the same of what has always been there? Finally, we reach the stage of skeletonization, staring back at us with its hollow, inquiring eyes. At this stage and those that follow, we find ourselves at the boundary of the divine, and for us to become worthy of an original creation, we must move God aside and take his seat. Yet to be worthy of that throne, there is a price that must be paid each time our hands shakes in terror before we decide on the next brush stroke on a blank canvas. We ask ourselves, are we capable of creating a new being? Can we create an unprecedented entity that is exceptionally intelligent, that can communicate and reproduce uniquely, that moves with power yet has no skeleton? Can we create a tree, a crab, fly, or maybe a jellyfish? Creating a new being, an idea that has no reference, is nothing other than what I believe to be absolute beauty and perfection. What is it then that always makes us stop? For instance, so many times has film or literature explored the fantasy of what if there was another alien race. Yet we constantly portray them in our likeness. We make them look like us, think like us, feel like us, communicate like us. Why is that? I wonder. What if it was much more sophisticated than that? They could be anything. They could be the oxygen atoms we breathe, or the black matter that holds the universe together, or that indivisible force that controls our DNA from one generation to other. What if they are the collective mind? What if they are us? Wouldn't that explain why we all feel so deeply alienated from everything and most of all, ourselves? What is creativity? What is originality? I ask once more. After the stage of skeletonization, we stand perplexed, paralyzed, hopeless, because we have no reference. We have no clue. We find ourselves suspended in an endless space of nothingness. A question echoes in the darkness, constantly haunting our minds. What is the use of it all? Yet if we overcome the terror, and very few do, can we really be able to earn the right to create something out of nothing? Something original? When looking at ancient civilization and the records that they left behind, we find that they had no end to their imagination. Everything was unprecedented without reference. They were free of reference, free of thousands and thousands of years of accumulation of knowledge. They created gods who were hybrids of man and beasts, beings that flew over the skies with fairies' wings and with endless superior powers. They created myth, religions, rituals, planets, stars, and stories from the skies. Could it be that the reason our world has become so deformed and limited is because we have lost the ability to be original, to create out of nothing? Did they call themselves as artists? It's a fact that many gifted artists believe that they are incapable of creating from nothing, and that any attempt at being completely original is a fool's errand. I agree with them to some extent, yet I disagree with their self-entitled justification of their inability to go further into the realm of death, and bring back something original? How is it that stealing from other artists or using references is normalized and accepted? If that is the case, then I can't help but ask, why then do we attempt to create anything in the first place, if all that we are creating is the same thing over and over again? What is the use then in that suffocating loop of recycling everything, and how dare we call ourselves creators and accept that label of being artists? Stepping away from the controversy of the subject and its mixed views, could it be that the reason behind our surrendering to such a belief is nothing other than preconceived ideas, and that we have been indoctrinated and programmed not to rebel against that definition of what is art and what is an artist? Could it be that we are forced into this limitation lest we discover the God who lays hidden within us, and that power we will have if He is awakened? We fear to create anything without a reference because it fills our hearts with terror before it does to anyone else. We fear all the past attempts of others, whether they failed or succeeded. We are scared to be original because we live in a world that has commercialized everything, a world that has become an open market for anyone who's willing to sell their soul to the highest bidder. We live in a world where being constantly present on a stage has become by far more important than what we are offering as artists. For those who do so, they do not care about the creative process, nor do they care about understanding themselves and the world, which is supposedly the sole drive of any artist. Yet all they crave is being seen, being known, being acknowledged, for they are unconsciously overwhelmed with the meaninglessness of their existence, a deeply rooted nihilism that is drowning their souls. All they want is to be seen, for without that validation they become invisible. That insatiable hunger to exist on social media is the epidemic of the age, a virus that is eating up our existence, transforming us into lifeless figures, begging to be known in an attempt to resurrect and feel alive again. I don't see shame in that, but in what they offer in return, as if nothing other than an Armageddon of mediocrity, sweeping our world, burying along the way all attempts at originality. Yet amidst all that chaos, there are still those of us hiding in the darkness of our own shells, protecting that fire of passion that burns within, refusing to forsake God within us. We are the dreamers, the insane, the doomed, the offspring of the ancient ones who still strive for knowledge, who still want to make films, not because we are filmmakers, nor compose music because we are musicians, nor paint because we are painters. We do all that simply because we are still so desperate to understand everything. When looking at Michelangelo's painting, The Creation of Adam, from a distance, we will think that God's and Adam's hands are touching. However, if we look closer, we will notice a gap between both fingers. This infinite gap is what makes us believe that we are almost there, but paradoxically never will be. It's that gap, that imperfection, that forces us to constantly keep trying to understand the mystery of our existence. Ironically, it's also the ultimate beauty.